Now at 6 and streaming on crossroadstoday.com, pretrial hearings are scheduled this week in an Edna murder case.
A new push for tips in a Calhoun County woman's mysterious disappearance.
And multiple people are killed in a shooting in a Target parking lot. What happened and how the suspect tried to get away.
Well, now we're getting into the dog days of summer, the hottest time of the year. We'll be talking about that and taking a look at the tropics, which is getting a little bit active. All that coming up in a moment.
And the Placer Sharks look to make a deep playoff run here in 2025. We'll highlight this year's team later on in sports.
Watching 25 News now at 6. Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Shauna Curry.
And I'm Don Brubaker.
Pretrial hearings are scheduled later this week for the suspect in the murder of an Edna cheerleader, with a jury trial scheduled to get underway in October.
25 News Now reporter Ray Mosley is following the story and joins us with the latest. Ray?
Yes, Sean and Don. Rafael Romero is indicted on charges of capital murder, but the district attorney's office is not seeking the death penalty. Romero is accused of the death of Elizabeth Medina. She was just 16 years old when she was killed on December 5th, 2 years ago. Romero was serving probation for a felony burglary charge and staying in Schulenburg with an expired work visa. Elizabeth was an Edna cheerleader who was scheduled to march in a Christmas parade but never showed up. Elizabeth's mother found her dead in a bathtub with stab wounds to her upper stomach area. Police arrested Romero and searched his room. Investigators say they found several items in his bedroom belonging to Elizabeth, including her wallet. The Texas Rangers have video of Romero leaving Elizabeth's apartment complex on the morning of December 5th. The arrest warrant also outlines social media and text messages from Elizabeth's phone after her death. Authorities were able to track her phone to Schulenburg, where they found Rafael Romero. The court may schedule one more pretrial hearing before October 27th. Shauna, Don, back to you.
A cash reward is being offered in the case of a Seadrift woman's disappearance 7 years ago. Calhoun County Crime Stoppers is now offering up to $1,000 for information on the case of Susie Escobedo. She was 25 when she disappeared in August 2018, leaving behind her 4-month-old daughter, her vehicle, and her phone. Authorities say years of searches have turned up no new leads, but they believe someone out there knows what happened. Tipsters can remain anonymous by calling 361-552-CASH. Investigators say even the smallest piece of information could help solve this case.
The Victoria College trustees meeting right now for a public hearing and special meeting. The public hearing was on the proposed 2025 tax rate. The board set the property tax rate at 18.32 cents per $100 of taxable value. The current rate for VC is 17.09 cents per $100 of valuation. Based on the Victoria Central Appraisal District's certified property tax values for 2025. A homeowner with a $100,000 home in Victoria College's taxing district will pay $183.20 before exemptions. The board will also discuss and take action on next year's budget, contracts, and equipment purchases.
As many students are heading back to school this week, we want to hear from you. And we're asking what your students' biggest back to school challenge is. Is it getting back into that routine of getting up early? Is it the homework load, making new friends, or balancing school and after school activities? Up about 6 percentage points from our 5 p.m. newscast, waking up early. That's always hard to adjust back to that. So hopefully everyone will be back on board here in the next couple of days, but continue voting. We want to hear from you. Come to crossroadstoday.com/vote, and then we'll have another look at these numbers on 25 News Now at 10.
Local cattle experts are watching out for a threat sneaking up from Mexico. It's called the New World screwworm. This insect lays eggs in open wounds, eyes, and nostrils, mostly in cows and calves. But pets and even people can be at risk. Livestock can die with just 3 days of exposure. Right now, the southern border is closed to cattle trade while the USDA rolls out a 5-step plan to tackle the problem, including releasing sterile flies to stop new eggs from hatching. New World screwworm was wiped out in the U.S. back in the 1960s, and officials are working hard to keep it that way. All right, more heat, we know that. And now do we get a break? We got a little bit of rain over the weekend. We took that.
Yeah, it was short, but a lot at one time over the weekend. I will have to say that. So let's go to Mac Perez to see if we have any more rain this week in the forecast.
Well, if you were the lucky one that got that downpour that passed through town, right about now we'll be talking about all that coming up in a few minutes. But as I mentioned at the top of the show, we have a tropical storm out in the Atlantic. This is Erin, as we promised. It formed at this point in time. This is going to be likely the first hurricane, the first Category 3 of the season. Should be getting into some areas north of the Caribbean. We'll be taking a real close look at what to expect with that system coming up and talk about your hot weather. All that in a moment. Back to you.
A man is in custody after allegedly opening fire at a North Austin Target store. At least 3 people are dead and several others hurt after the shooting in the parking lot. Authorities say one of those injured is a child, but no word on the extent of injuries. Police say the suspect fled the scene after the shooting, stole, then wrecked a car and hijacked another. Police were then able to take him into custody.
At least one person was injured following a shooting at a Texas college dorm over the weekend. Officers responded to the scene shortly after 8 Sunday night. They say an adult man was shot at Collin College's Spring Creek campus in Plano. An adult male suspect shot another man at least 2 times before fleeing toward nearby student apartments. Officers located and detained the suspect 20 minutes after arriving. The victim was taken to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Police have not said what led to the shooting.
Texas identifies the 119 people killed in the Hill Country floods. Most victims were Texans, but some were visiting from other states like California, Florida, and Alabama. The youngest victims were 1 year old. The oldest was 91. To read the full Texas Tribune article, come to crossroadstoday.com.
At least one person is dead and 2 others are missing after multiple explosions this morning at the U.S. Steel Clairton Coke Works near Pittsburgh. Governor Josh Shapiro says search and rescue efforts are ongoing. Allegheny County confirmed the fatality and the missing individual status is unknown. Senator John Fetterman reports several people were injured in the blasts. Rescue teams continue searching for those trapped inside the factory in Clairton, that's southeast of Pittsburgh. President Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin are set to meet on Friday in a historic summit in Alaska. Trump discussing the summit today as talks between the U.S. and Russia on U.S. soil will be a, quote, feel out meeting, unquote.
At this point, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky does not have a seat at the table. Trump promising Zelensky will get everything he needs. ABC's Melissa Adon has more.
Days away from the historic summit between President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin, today Trump downplaying hopes of a peace deal to end the war between Russia and Ukraine, which began with Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2022.
We're going to see what the parameters are. I'm then going to call up President Zelensky and the European leaders right after the meeting, yeah. And I'm going to tell them what kind of a deal. I'm not going to make a deal. It's not up to me to make a deal.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky left on the sidelines of this week's meeting. Trump saying the next meeting will include both leaders, but then suggested displeasure with the Ukrainian president.
I was a little bothered by the fact that Zelensky was saying, well, I have to get constitutional approval. I mean, he's got approval to go into war and kill everybody, but he needs approval to do a land swap, because there'll be some land swapping going on.
President Trump did not elaborate on any specifics about a land swap or concessions Russia will have to make. For weeks, Putin has ignored repeated warnings from Trump to stop the violence. Trump even giving Russia until last Friday to agree to a ceasefire or face sanctions and secondary tariffs. But now he is meeting with Putin instead.
President Trump's under the belief that if you're tough on Russia, then you can't negotiate with Russia. You know, this is not the historical experience. Russia believes in being tough to get into negotiations, and the only way we've ever been successful is to be equally tough in those military activities while we negotiate.
President Zelensky claiming Russia is trying to deceive America and called for more global pressure on Russia to end the war, saying it must not receive any rewards or benefits. Melissa Adon, ABC News, Los Angeles.
A local radio legend is being inducted into the 2025 Texas Radio Hall of Fame. Steve Kaufman, known as the godfather of Texas music, made a lasting mark in Hallettsville and Victoria. In 1993, he brought his Texas Mix format to a network of stations in Hallettsville before moving to Victoria in 1999. He became known as the voice of Victoria, sharing his love of Texas music and rallying the community for countless causes. He died in 2006 after a battle with cancer. Kaufman is one of 20 broadcasters who will be honored at the induction ceremony on November 1st. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Crossroads Today. Hit the like button and click the notification bell. Stay with us. Coming up on 25 News Now at 6, why a legal battle over National Guard deployment and constitutional limits is at the forefront.
Also ahead, President Trump announces a federal takeover of Washington, D.C. What's behind the move and how it could change our nation's capital.
Lawyers for President Trump and California Governor Gavin Newsom will face off in San Francisco over whether Trump violated a 147-year-old law by sending the National Guard to California back in June. Trump deployed thousands of guardsmen and Marines to protect against protests over immigration raids, despite Newsom's objections. The governor sued Trump and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, accusing them of violating the 10th Amendment and which limits military involvement in law enforcement. Trump's lawyers argue the act does not allow for civil lawsuits and says troops only protected federal property without engaging in law enforcement. President Trump announces that he is placing the Washington, D.C. Metropolitan Police Department under direct federal control and deploying National Guard troops to the nation's capital.
This move comes after Trump ordered a 7-day surge in federal law enforcement within the city Thursday night, pointing to several high-profile crimes. Julia Benbrook reports from the White House.
For months now, Trump has frequently threatened a federal takeover of the nation's capital because he claims that crime in Washington, D.C. is, quote, totally out of control. In a social media post over the weekend, Trump said, "I'm going to make our capital safer and more beautiful than it ever was before. The homeless have to move out immediately. We will give you places to stay, but far from the capital," adding, "The criminals, you don't have to move out. We're going to put you in jail where you belong." On Monday, the president held a press conference with several administration officials standing behind him.
I'm announcing a historic action to rescue our nation's capital from crime, bloodshed, bedlam, and squalor, and worse. This is Liberation Day in D.C., and we're going to take our capital back.
There were two major takeaways. He's placing the D.C. Metropolitan Police Department under federal control and deploying National Guard troops to the nation's capital. Trump has made several claims about the rising crime, but let's take a look at the data. So far this year, overall crime numbers in D.C. are actually lower than last year at this time. D.C. is managed under Home Rule, a 1973 law giving Congress oversight and authority over the capital city, but allowing district residents to have some control over how it's run. For Trump to completely have the federal government take over governing Washington, he would need lawmakers to pass legislation, which is unlikely in a tightly controlled Congress. At the White House, I'm Julia Benbrook.
Vice President J.D. Vance defended the Trump administration's handling of the Jeffrey Epstein files during a Sunday Fox News interview. He criticized Democrats for inaction while they control the White House and said President Trump demanded full transparency. Vance pointed out that Democrats are attacking Trump instead of the Biden administration, which he says did nothing for 4 years. Last month, the Justice Department said there's no evidence Epstein kept a client list or was murdered in jail.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. We're looking at 95 degrees even at this hour of the day. Another scorcher out there. We got up to 97. Actually, it's only 1 degree above our seasonal average. We are in the dog days of summer. That's the last 2 weeks of August, and then we wait for hopeful September to kind of break the heat. But we've got a good, solid couple of weeks ahead. We'll be talking about the heat and taking a look at the tropics in just a moment. Welcome back, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the weekend. I know we had a few downpours around the area over the weekend. I hope you were the lucky one and got it, because at this point in time, it's tough to get anything that'll cool you down out here. It was a hot weekend. We were at 99 on Friday, 98 on Saturday, and 97 yesterday. So today we're right on the money there. Now there's a little stationary front here. It's obviously more humid to the south. And slightly less humid to the north, but it's a good mixing area where we're popping up these little showers, but most of them have been away from us and up the road toward the Houston area. You can see this big surge of tropical moisture here. You think, hey, well, what is that? Is it going to be headed in our direction? Well, once this frontal system sort of dissolves, this whole thing is going to drift in our direction slowly. I'm hoping that by the time we get to this coming weekend, we'll have an increased chance for this shower activity to arrive in our area of the world. Hopefully we'll get some shower activity, because I'll tell you, other than that, it's 99 and sunny. So, I mean, that's the thing we look for. There you see the afternoon showers that popped up. You can see them down south toward Port Lavaca in Calhoun County, and late this afternoon, 2 little bitty ones just to the north of the city right there, getting fairly close to the Cuero area right about there, and that's probably Yoakum. I'm pretty sure that is Yoakum. So we continue with the hot, steamy stuff. This is where the rain fell today. This is the last 12 hours, so you can see the little spot up here on the way to Cuero. You can see a little bit of garden variety sprinkles down the southeast of the city, and most of the heavy stuff was down in Matagorda County and moving on up into Jackson County as well. Well, the heat index continues at above 105, and that's when I tell you, you just got to be watching the heat. Now, I know you got to work, I know you got to get stuff done, and you got to get outdoors, but I just want you to respect the heat in the middle part of the day. So whatever you're doing, you've survived this far, let's just keep it going. But like I said, the last 2 weeks of August usually are the hottest, maybe the first week of September, but mid-September, hopefully things will start changing on us. And I'll tell you why, because by then we'll start getting less intense sunlight. right? Remember, the sun is moving, and by the time we get to mid-September, which is a whole month from now, we'll get a little less sun and hopefully a little bit of a break. Now, in the Atlantic, we have a tropical storm, Erin, and we talk about Erin because, A, it's gotten going, even though it's in a hostile environment. In other words, there's a lot of dust up here, but it's already at 60 miles an hour, and the forecast is for it to have plenty of time. Now, in the first couple of days, it's going to be rough going because of the dust in the atmosphere, but about 3 or 4 days from now, it's likely to strengthen up and will likely become the first Category 3 hurricane of the season. Now, then it gets up here above the Caribbean, and what's going to happen? Well, I don't want to diminish any kind of people getting nervous about this. I do want to diminish the nervousness. I don't want to give you a false sense of security, but the computer models right now do take it up to very close to Bermuda and then turn it out to sea. If that is going to be our pattern, then we should be okay. But like I said, it's the first Category 3 of the season. So we take a look at Port Lavaca for tomorrow. Whoops, went too fast there. We're looking at a high temperature of about 96. Also in Cuero, about 96, 97. And then for the next 7 days, just a few little isolated afternoon showers, hopefully increasing for the weekend when that system off the coast of Florida, maybe, hopefully, we'll move it in our direction. That's your 7-day forecast, reminding everybody we do have a QR code. Love for you to scan that, put Crossroads Today on your phone, and here is Shauna.
All right, we're kicking off a school year, also kicking off football season, volleyball season, and some changes to be aware of as a fan. Let's go over to Max Williams for sports.
Yeah, it's crazy, Shauna. Again, we're only about 2 weeks left here to football season, and literally tomorrow we got volleyball games starting up here across the state of Texas. And again, the UIL, though, is having a new change regarding the spectators in the stands. So we'll tell you more about this coming up in sports. Like I mentioned at the break, we're officially 2 weeks away from the beginning of football season with the first scrimmages starting up here this Friday. And we have two CFL previews we're going to talk about here today, both in Matagorda County with the Placer Sharks, who last year in 3 Division I, the Sharks were 4-6 overall and then 3-4 in district play. They only needed one more win in order to make the playoffs there last year. So the Sharks, they bring back top defensive back and Trey Wexelman, and also they're going to operate more out of the spread offense this year, kind of use more of an odd front on defense, having more of that more defensive line base going into this year. New head coach Travis Hoffer wants to create a new culture sustained here for a long time.
That we want to make the most competitive products possible. We break out to expect to win. Kids clap, we will win. That's the expectation. We want to win, right? We're going to take care of the little things to get those and earn those wins, but we're here and we're committed to the process, and we want to continue to drive it.
Now, Hoffer Oaks with these big-time facilities, as you see right there at their weight room, and also their new football field they got made there as well. That can help out the Sharks go into this year, as they're right now in two-a-day practice, and they open up the season at Tidehaven. It'll be August 29th there at 7:30 p.m. Now, staying in Matagorda County, but the Bay City Blackcats were last season. They went 12-2 overall, reached the regional finals versus Lavernia Bears, and won their first ever district title since 2004 their last season. So the Blackcats trying to keep that momentum going in here to this year. They're going to get some big production without Alex Estrada and wide receiver Zylan Williams, who were big-time offensive threats because they scored 51 points per game there last season there for the Blackcats. So this year they're not going to have those offensive threats. They're going to rely more on their defense with James Copeland, the linebacker, but also keep an eye on offensive wide receiver and Jordan Johnson for the Blackcats. So we asked both the stars what they're expecting to bring in week one.
Week one is showing what I made of myself, considering I got picked to be defensive AP for district. So, you know, I got a big chip on my shoulder, and I got a lot to put on for like my peoples.
At least 2 touchdowns, 120 yards.
I love that he had a certain goal there for Johnson there going into the season. So hopefully he can get that job done under the head coach, Robert Jones, Star of the Year. They're going to open at home versus Sweeney Bulldogs on August 29th. Now, with all these kind of things I'm talking about with volleyball and football season, the UIL is also implementing a new rule change going into this year. This comes with Senate Bill 2929, which grants school district and UIL officials, which will allow them the authority to remove any spectators, yes, from a sporting event if their behavior is found disruptive, abusive, or unsafe there in competition. This allows all high school events to try to be more safe kind of in that environment this year. So, again, if you're a fan, you better be careful what you say out there or kind of what you do to cheer out there, because, again, you will possibly be kicked out of games going into the future. And finally, college football is getting ready to start as we have AP revealed the preseason top 25 with the Texas Longhorns. They're at number 1, Penn State's at number 2, the national champs in the Ohio State Buckeyes. They're at number 3. You got Clemson. They're at number 4 with Georgia at number 5. They wrap out the top 10 with Notre Dame at 6, who was in the national championship game last season versus Ohio State. And then Oregon is at 7 with Bama at 8, LSU at 9, Miami, Florida at 10. And then for Texas A&M fans, you're currently ranked at number 19 in the top 25 with Texas Tech at number 23. So Texas opens up at Ohio State there on August 30th there at 11 a.m. will be on Fox, and the Aggies are going to open at home versus UTSA, and that'll start at 6 p.m. And that's going to do it here in sports. Don, Shauna, back to you.
Thank you, Max, and we're back in a moment. We'll tell you the latest way the internet is progressing in the 21st century. Finally tonight, AOL, once the biggest name in internet service connectivity, is ditching dial-up. Yeah, for many of you, this may come as a surprise to learn that AOL has still been offering dial-up. The internet service is a vestige of the early days of the World Wide Web. You may remember in the 1990s, the familiar, unmistakable sound of the dial-up connection was the signature tone of getting online. But as of 2023, only about 1% of U.S. households with internet subscriptions were using only dial-up. AOL will stop offering it on September 30th. So if you have the dial-up,
Had no idea that it was still available.
I mean, okay.
yeah, go to Plan B.
Yes.
Like many, many others have in the past. Just saying, you know.
I mean, you have to have a home phone still, a landline phone, and
yes.
You
then the
have a
internet service.
landline phone?
No, I don't. I'm saying to have
To
the
have that,
AOL
yes.
service, you have to.
Because,
yeah.
I mean, that was what, way back in 2000?
Yes.
It's crazy.
They brought them in by stagecoach.
They did. Well, folks, we continue with the hot, steamy weather, looking at 97 again for tomorrow. Hopefully, with a little luck, we'll get an increased chance for showers as we get to the end of this weekend. Otherwise, the tropics are active, and we're certainly watching it for you very carefully.
Well, at least you're consistent with the 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm running out of 90s, you know. Used them all up.
Oh, well. Keep some for a while. All right. Thank you, Mac. Thanks for joining us.
We'll see you back here tonight at 10.